Good day! Kindly follow me on my Facebook page and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Thank you! In this video for the grade 9 mathematics, we will talk about simplifying radical expressions. So we have simplifying radicals by reducing the radicand, simplifying radicals by rationalizing denominators, simplifying radicals by reducing the order of radicals, and conjugate of radical expression. Okay, a radical is in its simplest form if, first, the radicand does not contain a perfect square, cube, or nth power. For example, square root of 2 is in its simplest form since 2 is not a perfect square, meaning the square root of 2 is not exact. Another, cube root of 5 is in its simplest form since 5 is not a perfect cube, meaning the cube root of 5 is not exact. Second, there is no fraction in the radicand or no radical in the denominator. So kapag walang radical sign sa denominator or hindi fraction ang radicand, iyon na yung simplest form ng radical. So let's have the examples. Square root of 3/4. So kung mapapansin nyo, hindi pa ito yung final answer or simplest form ng radical dahil naka-fraction. So we have to simplify this as square root of 3 over square root of 4. Dahil ang square root of 3/4 ay katulad lang ng square root of 3 over square root of 4. And then, hindi pa yan yung final answer or simplest form dahil may square root yung denominator. So, para mawala yung square root ng denominator, mamaya ituturo ko kung paano nga ba yon aalisin. And then, ang final answer nito is square root of 3 over 2. The fraction is simplified such that there is no radicand in the denominator. So, since nawala na yung radical sign sa denominator, ito na yung simplest form. Third, naka-simplest form na ang radicand if the index of the radical is the lowest possible index. Let's have the example. 6th root of 8 is not yet in simplest form since the index 6 can be expressed as the product of 3 and 2. So, to simplify, express it as square root of cube root of 8 equals square root of 2. Since the cube root of 8 is 2 and square root of 2 is not exact. You have to simplify radical expressions with a perfect nth factor, a fraction radicand or denominator, and reducible index. So recall that a raised to m over n equals n square root of a raised to m. Na kung saan yung n, iyon yung ating index, yung a, ang ating radicand, and then m naman yung exponent. And then ito yung tinatawag nating radical sign. Okay, n square root of a raised to m is a radical expression which indicates the nth root of a raised to m. N is the index which gives the order of radicals, and a raised to m is the radicand, the number within radical sign o yung nasa loob ng radical sign, iyon yung tinatawag nating radicand. Okay, simulan natin sa simplifying radicals by reducing the radicand. So, ibig sabihin, ilo-lowest term natin yung radicand. So, reducing radicand is finding a factor of a radicand whose indicated roots can be found. So, let's have the examples. Simplify square root of 50. So, hindi pa yan nakasimplify ang ating given radical dahil pwede pa nating i-reduce ang radicand which is 50. Paano natin yan i-reduce? Iisipin natin or aalamin natin ano yung dalawang factors na kapag minultiply ang product ay 50 and then kailangan yung isang factor ay perfect square or merong eksaktong square root. So, ang mga factors na yun ay 25 times 2 because 25 times 2 is 50. And then, ang 25 ay perfect square. So, let us get the square root. Pero, pwede nating isulat ang square root of 25 times 2 into this given form. Square root of 25 times square root of 2. So dito, pinaghiwalay natin yung dalawang factor para mas madali nating kunin ang square root ng alinman sa kanila na perfect square. Ang square root of 25 is 5. And then, walang square root ang 2. So, kinopya lang natin yung square root of 2. Therefore, we simplified square root of 50 as 5 square root of 2. Because 5 times 5 is 25. Second example, simplify cube root of 81. So, kailangan nating isipin ulit ano yung dalawang factors na kapag minultiply ay 81 pero dapat yung isang factor ay perfect cube. Or kapag minultiply natin ng tatlong beses, iyon ay given perfect cube. So, that is cube root of 27 times 3. Pwede rin nating isulat na cube root of 27 times cube root of 3. Ano nga ba yung cube root of 27? That is 3 because 3 times 3 is 9 times 3, that is 27. So, kaya, ang final answer is 3, 3 times the cube root of 3. So, kinopya lang natin to dahil walang cube root ang 3. And then, ang cube root naman ng 27 ay whole number 3. Because 3 times 3 times 3 is 27. Third example, simplify fifth root of 32x to the 7 power y to the fifth z. So for the solution, to get the root of variables with integral exponent, the exponent must be divisible by the index. So kailangan para makuha natin yung fifth root ng x to the 7th, y to the 5th, at z, kailangan ang mga exponent nila ay divisible sa 5 or pwedeng i-divide sa 5. Since 5 yung ating index. And then yung 32, kailangan nating isipin kung siya ba ay perfect to the 5th power. So we have the given solution of fifth root of 32 x to the 5th, y to the 5th, times x squared z. So paano naging ganito yung ating resulting equation or expression? Ito ay dahil yung x to the 7th o yung 7 ay hindi kayang i-divide sa 5. So, binawasan natin ng dalawa yung 7 para maging divisible ang 5 sa 5. And then, yung x squared o yung 2 na exponent ay inihiwalay muna natin kaya nagkaroon ng x squared dito. Because x to the 5th times x squared is x to the 7th. And then, yung y, kung mapapansin nyo, divisible na yung 5 sa 5. So, nilagay natin ang y to the 5th. And then, yung z naman, since 1 lang yung exponent niya, hindi siya divisible sa 5, so isinama natin siya dun sa pangalawang factor. Okay, so pwede nating i-separate, katulad niyan. So, ibig sabihin, kailangan na nating hanapin ang fifth root ng 32x to the 5th, y to the 5th, and then, aalawin din natin kung ito bang pangalawang factor ay may fifth root. So, the final answer is 2xy times fifth root of x squared z. So, paano naging 2xy? Because 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 is 32. So, ang fifth root ng 32 is 2. And then, ang fifth root naman ng x to the fifth, that is x times x times x times x times x is equal to x to the fifth. Pinag-add lang natin lahat ng exponents. So, since merong 5 exponents, so that is 5. And then, y times y times y times y times y is y to the fifth. So, ang fifth root ng given na radical expression na ito ay 2xy. And then, since walang fifth root ang pangalawang factor na ito, kinopya lang natin. Fourth example, simplify 5 times 4, fourth root of 48, a to the 4th, b to the 10th, and c to the 5th power. So, for the solution, factor the radicand such that one factor is the 4th power of a certain number, and the variable such that the exponent is divisible by the index 4. So, dito, para ma-factor natin yung radicand, which is 48, ano yung dalawang numbers or dalawang factors na kapag minultiply that is 48, pero dapat yung isang factor sa kanila ay may fourth root. And then, ganun pa rin yung gagawin natin sa mga variables o sa exponent ng mga variables. Kailangan maging divisible ang exponent nila sa ating index. So, for the solution, that will become 5 times the fourth root of 16, a to the fourth, b to the eighth, c to the fourth, times 3b squared c. So, paano nga ba naging ganyan yung ating given radical expression? So, yung whole number na 5 ay hindi kabilang sa fourth root since nasa labas siya ng radical sign. So, mamaya natin yan i-multiply or isi-simplify. And then, yung 48 ay naging 16 times 3 because 16 times 3 is 48. And then, yung 16 ay may fourth root. Kaya, iyon yung nilagay natin sa unang factor. And then, yung a to the fourth, since ang 4 ay divisible sa 4, so ganun pa rin. And then, yung b raised to 10, ang 10 ay hindi divisible sa 4, so ginawa lang natin tong 8. And then, yung sobra na 2 ay nilagay natin sa pangalawang factor. Kaya naging 3b squared. And then, yung c to the fifth naman, ang 5 ay hindi divisible sa 4. So, bawasan natin ng isa, kaya naging c to the fourth. And then, yung c or yung c raised to 1 ay napunta din sa pangalawang factor. Kaya meron tayong ganitong resulting expression. Or, pwede nating paghiwalayin ang radical sign nila para mas madali natin makuha yung kanilang mga fourth roots. Okay, so ito yung given o yung pangalawang factor. Ito yung unang factor na meron ng fourth roots. So, the final answer is by getting the fourth root of 16, which is 2. The fourth root of a to the fourth is a, because 4 divided by 4 is 1. And then, the fourth root of b to the 8 is b squared because 8 divided by 4 is 2. And then, the fourth root of c to the fourth is c because 4 divided by 4 is 1. And again, ang fourth root ng 16 ay 2. Okay, so kinopya lang natin yung 5 and then yung pangalawang factor. So the final answer will be 10ab squared c times fourth root of 3b squared c. So paano naging 10? So minultiply na natin yung ating nakuhang fourth root na 2ab squared c sa 5 na whole number, kaya naging 10ab squared c. Because 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 is 16, so ito yon. And then, 4 na a, so that is a to the fourth. 4 na b squared, that is b raised to 8 because 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2 is 8. And then last, 4 na c, so that is c to the fourth. So, paano naging b squared times b squared times b squared times b squared which is equal to b to the 8th power? Ito ay dahil minultiply natin ang ating resulting equation ng 4 na beses which is yung index. So, b squared kapag kinuha natin ang fourth root niya, so that is b to the 8th power. Next is simplifying radicals by reducing the order of radicals. To reduce the order of radicals is to reduce the index to its lowest possible number. So let's have the example, simplify 8th root of a to the 12th power. So dito, para masimplify natin yung index na 8, kailangan nating alamin ano yung dalawang factors na kapag minultiply ay a raised to 12. So those factors are a to the 8th power and a to the 4th power because a raised to 8 times a raised to 4 is equal to a raised to 12. Or pwede nating isulat as ganito, 8th root of a to the 8th times 8th root of a to the 4th power. And then, since may 8th root na ang a to the 8th, pwede natin yung ilagay as a, so ito na yon, times 8th root of a to the 4th power. Or, yung 8th root of a to the 4th power ay pwede natin gawing a raised to 4 over 8. Dahil ang 8th root of a to the 4th power ay pwede magkaroon ng fraction na exponent. So, imumultiply lang natin, i-divide lang natin o gagawin natin numerator ang exponent ng a which is 4 and then ang denominator naman ay yung ating index na a. And then, since kaya pang i-lowest term ang 4 over 8, the final answer is a times square root of a. Kasi ang square root of a ay katumbas ng a raised to 1/2. Second example, simplify 4th root of 25. So dito, para masimplify natin yung 25, kailangan gawin natin ang 25 into exponential form. So kailangan may exponent yung 25. So paano ba natin gagawin? Pwede natin gawing 4th root of square root of 5 squared. So may exponent na yung 25. Ang 25 ay naging 5 because 5 squared or 5 times 5 is 25. So dito meron na tayong exponent. Gamitin natin ang technique na ito na ginawa nating fraction ang exponent. So magiging 5 raised to 2 over 4. And then, since kaya pang i-lowest term, ang 2 over 4, that will become 5 raised to 1 half. And then, kung gusto nyong ilagay as radical expression, ang 5 raised to 1 half ay katulad din ng square root of 5. Third example, simplify cube root of square root of 64. So dito, kung mapapansin nyo, meron tayong dalawang radical symbol or radical sign. Ang gagawin natin dito, una nating isosolve yung nasa loob ng isa pang radical sign. So ito yung square root of 64. Ang square root of 64 is 8. So ang resulting expression will be cube root of 8. And then, kailangan natin maalis yung isa pang radical sign dito. So, it can be 2. Paano naging 2? Because 2 times 2 times 2 is 8. Therefore, the cube root of 8 is 2. Fourth example, simplify 6th root of 27 m cube n cube. Kung mapapansin nyo, ang exponent ng m at n ay 3, which is not divisible sa 6. So, we have to make this radicand 27 sa may exponent din na 3 para tulad-tulad silang may exponent na 3. So, this will become 3 cube, m cube, n cube. Ano naging 3 cube? Because 3 times 3 is 9, times 3, that is 27. And then, since pare-pareho na sila ng exponent, pwede nating isulat as ganito, 6th root of 3mn quantity cube. Okay, so dito naman, para ma-simplify natin yung index na 6, pwede natin gawing fraction ang exponent ng 3mn, kaya magiging 3mn raised to 3 over 6. And then, may lowest term pa ang 3 over 6, which is raised to 1 half. And then, ang 1 half naman ay papalitan natin ng radical sign. Therefore, the final answer is square root of 3mn. Next is simplifying radicals by rationalizing denominators. In a radical expression, if there is a radical number in the denominator, the expression is not in simplest form. To eliminate the radical number in the denominator, you should apply the rationalization process. So kapag sinabing rationalization, it is the process of removing the radical sign in the denominator. To rationalize denominator, you have to multiply the numerator and denominator by a number such that the resulting radicand in the denominator is a perfect nth power. So let's now have the example for the rationalization process. First example, simplify square root of 3 halves or square root of 3 over 2. Ito ay pwede nating isulat as square root of 3 over square root of 2, and then i-apply na natin yung rationalization process na kung saan imumultiply natin ang numerator at denominator sa denominator. And then, we will just multiply numerator times numerator and denominator times denominator. Therefore, the resulting will be square root of 6 over square root of 4. Bakit natin minultiply o bakit kayang i-multiply ang square root of 3 sa square root of 2? Ito ay dahil pareho silang may radical sign. So, pwede natin silang i-multiply. So, 3 times 2 is 6. And then, square root of 2 times square root of 2 is square root of 4. Ang square root of 4 ay may perfect square, therefore, the final answer is square root of 6 over 2. Kung mapapansin nyo, ito na yung final answer natin dahil wala ng radical sign ang denominator. Second example, simplify 14 over square root of 7. Again, apply the rationalization process. And then, kapag magmumultiply tayo ng whole number sa radical, hindi natin pwedeng i-multiply ang 14 sa 7 dahil ang 14 ay walang radical sign. So, simply, pagtatabihin lang natin yung 14 at square root of 7, and then, square root of 7 times square root of 7 is square root of 49. And then, since may square root of 49, the answer will be 14 square root of 7 over 7. Hindi pa ito yung final answer since kayang i-divide ang 14 sa whole number 7. Hindi pwedeng i-divide ang square root of 7 sa 7 dahil hindi sila parehong may may radical sign. So, whole number sa whole number, therefore, the final answer is 2 square root of 7. Last is conjugate of radical expressions. So let's have the examples, radical expressions, and its conjugate. So, ang radical expression na given natin is 3 plus square root of 2 at ang conjugate naman niya ay yung opposite sign, so that is 3 minus square root of 2. Next is square root of 5 minus square root of 2. So, ang kanyang conjugate ay square root of 5 plus square root of 2. The product of the radical expression and its conjugate is an integer. In finding its product is the same procedure in multiplying the sum and difference of two binomials like x plus y times x minus y equals x squared minus y squared. Let's have the example. Finding the product of radical expression and its conjugate. So we have the given 3 plus square root of 2 times 3 minus square root of 2. So ang ating radical expression ay 3 plus square root of 2 at ang kanyang conjugate ay 3 minus square root of 2. So we will apply the sum and difference of two binomials. So ang gagawin lang natin is square the first term and square the second term. And then, palagi po siyang minus because positive times negative is negative. So, 3 squared is equal to 9 or 3 times 3 is equal to 9 and square root of 2 quantity squared is 2. Paano naging 2? Or paano nawala yung square root symbol? Because square root of 2 times square root of 2 is square root of 4 and then ang square root ng 4 ay 2. Kaya naging whole number 2. Therefore, the final answer is 7. Another, square root of 5 minus square root of 2 times square root of 5 plus square root of 2. So, i-square lang natin yung first term at yung second term, palaging minus. And then, square root of 5 squared ay katulad lang ng square root of 5 times square root of 5. Or square root of 25. So, ang square root ng 25 is whole number 5 minus ang square root naman ng 4 or square root of 2 times square root of 2 is square root of 4. So, ang square root ng 4 ay 2. So, 5 minus 2 is 3. Another example, rationalize the expression 3 over 2 minus square root of 3. So, for the solution, find the conjugate of the denominator, then multiply the numerator and the denominator by the conjugate. So, dito, kapag meron tayong given fraction, para tayo nag-rationalize or rationalization process, so hahanapin natin ang conjugate ng denominator and then imumultiply natin sa numerator at sa denominator. So, magiging 3 times 2 plus square root of 3 over 2 minus square root of 3 times 2 plus square root of 3. Ang conjugate ng denominator na 2 minus square root of 3 ay 2 plus square root of 3. So, minultiply natin sa numerator at sa denominator. Hindi tayo magka-cancel dito, okay? Kasi babalik lang tayo doon sa ating given. So, let us now multiply or simplify. So, yung ating denominator, gamitin natin yung sum and difference of two binomials. So, square the first term and square the second term para mawala yung square root symbol sa denominator. And then, this will become 2 times 2 or 2 squared is 4 and square root of 3 squared is 3 because square root of 3 times square root of 3 is square root of 9 and the square root of 9 is 3. So, this will become 3 times 2 plus square root of 3 over 1 because 4 minus 3 is 1. And then, i-divide natin ang numerator na whole number which is 3 at ang denominator na 1. Therefore, the final answer is 3 times 2 plus square root of 3. Hindi natin pwedeng i-add ang whole number at radical dahil ang isa ay whole number at isa ay radical. So let us now summarize. A radical is in its simplest form if the radicand does not contain a perfect square, cube, or nth power. There is no fraction in the radicand or no radical in the denominator. So dito natin i-apply ang rationalization process para matanggal yung radical sign sa denominator. Next is the index of the radical is the lowest possible index. You have to simplify radical expressions with a perfect nth power, a fraction radicand or denominator, and reducible index. Thank you for watching. If you have questions or suggestions, feel free to comment below. Enjoy learning mathematics. God bless us all!